There comes a moment in life when the dynamic between parents and children starts to shift. After years of nurturing, guiding, and making sacrifices for them, you suddenly sense a change. Perhaps they no longer seek your advice, dismiss your opinions, or even speak to you in a way that feels dismissive or condescending. In some cases, they may make you feel like an inconvenience rather than a valued part of their lives. It's painful, and naturally, you might feel hurt or even frustrated. If you've started noticing that your children are not treating you with the respect you deserve, it's understandable to feel a mix of emotions: anger, sadness, even resentment. You might be tempted to remind them of all you've done for them, of the years you spent prioritizing their happiness. But here's the truth: anger won't change the situation. In fact, it often pushes them further away. Instead, there are better, more effective ways to shift their perception and regain their respect, without conflict, without resentment, and without feeling like you have to prove your worth. Today, let's talk about some key shifts you can make to reclaim your place as a respected and valued individual in their lives. These are simple yet powerful changes in your approach that can lead to a complete transformation in how they see you. Some of these might surprise you, but if you take them to heart, you'll notice a meaningful difference in your relationship. First, stop seeking their approval. One of the most common mistakes parents make as they grow older is trying too hard to please their children. It happens subtly. You adjust your schedule to accommodate them, say yes when you want to say no, and prioritize their needs over your own in the hopes that they'll appreciate and value you more. But the reality is, the more you seek their validation, the less they respect you. Respect isn't earned by constantly sacrificing yourself. It's cultivated through self-respect. If you consistently put yourself last, you unintentionally send the message that your feelings and opinions are not important. Over time, they come to expect this from you, and before you know it, they start taking you for granted. I once knew a woman named Eleanor. She was a strong, independent person in her younger years, but as she aged, she let her children take over all the decision-making. She rarely voiced her opinions, ignored the way they dismissed her, and convinced herself that by being accommodating, she was keeping the family close. But what actually happened? Her children began seeing her as someone who would always adjust, always agree, and always stay quiet. She wasn't preserving harmony. She was erasing her own presence. If you feel disrespected by your children, the solution isn't to demand their respect. It's to start showing yourself the respect you deserve. Establish boundaries, say no when necessary, and voice your thoughts even if they don't align with theirs. The moment you begin respecting yourself, they will start to see you in a different light. And with time, the respect you thought was lost will begin to return. Next, avoid engaging in arguments. Lead by example instead. When your children disregard your opinions, interrupt you, or treat you with indifference, your instinct might be to argue, to remind them of your sacrifices, or to demand they listen. But has anyone ever truly gained respect through an argument? Likely not. Respect is not won through heated words. It's earned through the way you carry yourself. If you meet disrespect with frustration, you inadvertently reinforce their belief that they have power over you. Instead, shift the dynamic by demonstrating calm confidence. I once met a man named Henry, a retired professor who had spent his career commanding the attention of a classroom. Yet, at home, his grown children barely acknowledged his input, brushed off his advice, and sometimes even chuckled when he tried to correct them. At first, he argued, hoping to prove his wisdom and regain their respect, but it only made things worse. Then, he changed his approach. He stopped trying to demand respect with words and instead focused on embodying it. He listened more, responded with measured wisdom, and no longer felt the need to prove himself. Slowly, his children started noticing. They saw a man who wasn't desperate for their validation, who carried himself with quiet strength. Without needing to fight for it, he reclaimed his place as a respected figure in their lives. So, if you're feeling disrespected, resist the urge to fight for their approval. Instead, embody the qualities you want them to recognize in you. Speak with assurance, maintain your dignity, and never lower yourself to a reactive, defensive position. When you remain composed and self-assured, they will feel it. Over time, they will follow your lead, content to enlighten and uplift you. Let's move ahead. One key step to take is to detach yourself emotionally. As we grow older, one of the toughest realizations is that our children cannot be our sole source of emotional fulfillment. The love we have for them is deep and unwavering, and of course we long for their love and respect in return. However, the moment they sense that our sense of worth is dependent on their attention, the dynamic of the relationship changes. The truth is, people, including our own children, hold in high regard those who maintain emotional independence. When we lean on them for validation, affection, or acknowledgement, it places an unspoken weight on their shoulders. Instead of fostering gratitude, it often breeds pressure. This can lead to them pulling away, growing impatient, or even becoming distant. Ironically, the more we seek their love, the less freely they offer it. Take the story of Helen, a devoted mother who dedicated everything to her children. As time passed and they became consumed by their own lives, she found herself eagerly waiting for their calls. When they didn't call, she did instead, constantly reminding them how much she missed them, how much she longed for their visits. But instead of strengthening their bond, this approach inadvertently created space between them. Her calls became an obligation rather than a joy. Then, one day, Helen shifted her focus. She stopped waiting. She no longer made the first call. Instead, she turned her attention to herself, pursuing new interests, reconnecting with old friends, and finding happiness within. The unexpected happened. Her children started reaching out more. They saw her as a person with a fulfilling life, someone whose presence was valuable and not just an expectation. The lesson here is clear. The less we seek our children's attention for our self-worth, the more they will appreciate our presence. When they see us as individuals who can stand strong, they respect us not out of duty, but because they genuinely admire the way we live. Another vital step is to establish and uphold boundaries. A significant reason why respect diminishes in parent-child relationships is that parents allow it. If we tolerate being spoken to dismissively, having our opinions brushed aside, or being treated as though our feelings don't count, it will persist, not because our children lack love for us, but because people, especially family, will treat us in the manner we permit. Setting boundaries is not about severing ties or inciting conflict. It is about clearly defining what behaviors are acceptable and what are not. More importantly, it involves following through when those boundaries are ignored. Consider Robert, a retired businessman who once commanded respect in his professional life but struggled to receive the same from his children. They interrupted him mid-sentence, disregarded his advice, and even critiqued his lifestyle. Initially, he let it slide, convincing himself it wasn't worth an argument. But over time, he realized that his silence was reinforcing their behavior. Then, he chose a different approach. When his son interrupted him, he simply said, "I'll continue when you're ready to listen." When his daughter dismissed his viewpoint, he calmly stated, "You don't have to agree with me, but I expect to be respected." And when his limits were tested repeatedly, he made it clear, if they could not treat him with basic decency, he would not be engaging with them. At first, there was resistance, but soon they understood that their father valued himself enough to demand respect. And because of that, they began treating him with the same respect he upheld for himself. If our children fail to treat us with the consideration we deserve, we must ask ourselves, are we allowing it? If we don't define our boundaries, no one else will do it for us. If we don't stand up for ourselves, we can't expect others to do it either. If you've made it this far and these insights resonate with you, drop a comment to let me know you're here. And if you haven't yet, consider subscribing and enabling notifications so you don't miss out on more enriching content. Your support empowers us to continue bringing valuable discussions to the forefront. Now, let's proceed to another crucial realization. Giving should be met with appreciation. One of the swiftest ways to lose respect is by continuously giving to those who fail to acknowledge or value it. As parents, we often find ourselves in this position. We offer our time, our resources, our unwavering support, even when it goes unnoticed, even when it's taken for granted, even when we receive nothing but entitlement in return. The reality is, when we give without appreciation, we don't cultivate love or respect, we create expectation. Our kindness, instead of being cherished, becomes something others assume they are entitled to. And the moment we stop, instead of gratitude, we are met with disappointment. Take George, a father who had always been generous with his children, extending financial help whenever they needed it. There was a time when George gave everything to his children, his time, his energy, and his unwavering support. No matter what they needed, he was there, ready to assist without hesitation. He rearranged his life, put his own needs aside, and prioritized theirs. But instead of gratitude, he was met with indifference. His sacrifices went unnoticed. His kindness became an expectation rather than something to be appreciated. And the worst part? When he finally needed their help, they were too busy for him. One day, George had enough. He decided to stop overextending himself. He no longer offered help before it was requested, and when he needed to, he started saying no. At first, his children were confused, even frustrated. They didn't understand why he wasn't bending over backward for them anymore. But then, something changed. Over time, they began to appreciate his efforts. They realized that his generosity was not infinite. It was a choice, not a duty. If you feel like your children don't recognize your efforts, take a step back and reflect. Are you giving more than you should? And if so, what would happen if you stopped? By teaching others that your kindness is a privilege and not a guarantee, they will start to treat it with the respect it deserves. Another important step in regaining your children's respect is to cultivate a fulfilling life beyond them. It's natural for parents to dedicate themselves to their children, making them the center of their world. But as time passes, this dynamic needs to shift. If you've spent years prioritizing them over everything else, they may start to see you as someone without their own identity or purpose. People respect those who have their own passions, their own sense of fulfillment. If your children notice that you rely on them for meaning, validation, or social connection, they may begin to feel overwhelmed, or worse, take you for granted. Take Eleanor, for instance. A widow in her late 70s, she had dedicated her entire life to her family. After her husband passed away, she immersed herself in her children's lives, constantly checking in, offering advice they didn't ask for, and expecting them to fill the void left behind. But instead of strengthening their bond, it had the opposite effect. Her children distanced themselves. Their visits became infrequent, their phone calls shorter. Eleanor felt more alone than ever. Then, she made a change. She joined a book club, traveled with friends, and volunteered at a community center. She built a life independent of her children, and something remarkable happened. Her children started calling more often, curious about what she was doing. They admired her independence. They respected her in a way they never had before. If you feel like your children don't respect you, ask yourself, do they see you as someone with a rich, meaningful life? Or as someone simply waiting for their attention? Because when you demonstrate that you are living, not just existing, they will begin to view you in a new light. If you're still watching this and finding these insights valuable, leave a comment below with the word insight to let us know you're here. And if you haven't already, consider subscribing and turning on notifications so you never miss an update. Your support helps us continue creating meaningful content to empower and inspire you. Respect from your children isn't something you can demand. It's something you cultivate. If they've started treating you with less care, consideration, or regard, don't waste your energy being upset. Instead, shift your approach. Stop seeking their validation. The less you crave their approval, the more likely they are to give it. Led by example, actions speak louder than words, and the way you carry yourself will determine how they treat you. Establish boundaries. People will only treat you as well as you require them to. Recognize the value of your generosity. If your kindness is taken for granted, it loses its meaning. And most importantly, create a fulfilling life outside of them. People respect those who have their own joy, purpose, and independence. When you make these changes, an incredible transformation occurs. Your children will begin to see you not as someone waiting for their attention, but as someone who commands respect simply by being who they are. And in time, that respect will return, not because you demanded it, but because you earned it. Thank you for spending this time with us today. We'd love to hear from you. Share something you've learned in the comments below, and let us know how you plan to apply it in your life. Your insights and experiences matter to us, and reading them motivates and inspires us to continue this journey together. If you found this video helpful, please like, share, and subscribe. Your engagement helps us bring you more content that enriches and empowers. We look forward to seeing you in the next video. Until then, live fully, with purpose and dignity, knowing that your worth is immeasurable.